Hi, Richard here. So today I wanted to go through some dependent prepositions with you. Now these can create quite a challenge for English learners just because there are so many of them and there really seems to be no rhyme or reason to when we use one or when we use the other, so you just have to learn them. Unfortunately, it's a little bit like phrasal verbs. So today I wanted to go through 10 with you. And not the simple ones, because I'm sure most people watching, you already know the quite simple ones: to be good at something, to think about something. We're going to use some of the more advanced ones today. So we have 10 of them. So let's get into it. We also have some good examples for each one. Number 1, to hope for something. Let's look at 3 examples of this. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That's some good life advice for you right there. Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. In a business context, we could say something like, we hope for progress in the negotiations. So we're trying to make a business deal with another company. We hope for progress in the negotiations. We could also say, I hope for the day when, just something I want to happen in the future. I hope for the day when world peace is achieved, or I hope for the day when world hunger is eliminated. Number 2, to approve of something. Most people don't approve of violence as a solution to life's problems. Maybe in the past, if you had a problem with somebody, you could sort it out man to man, as they used to say. Nowadays, most people don't approve of violence as a solution. That's a good thing. You could also say, I approve of this decision. It's just a different variation of saying, I agree with that. I agree with that decision. I approve of this decision. Another example could be, the shareholders were asked to approve of various compensation plans for executives. So sometimes in a business, when we're looking at reviewing or negotiating the salary or the bonus package for the CEO or the CFO, the shareholders, they have to approve of those plans. Number 3, to depend on something or to depend on someone. I might go to the park tomorrow. It depends on the weather. So if it's sunny, I'll probably go to the park. If it's not sunny, I probably won't. I plan to go to Moscow in January, but it depends on the travel situation. So sometimes there's restrictions, sometimes there's flight restrictions, visa restrictions, especially when we're filming this video in 2020. So it depends what happens. The manager depends on his team too much. I mean, all managers depend on their team, but maybe this person, they depend on their team too much. Maybe it's not a very good manager, they're not very skilled, so they depend too much on their team. Number 4, to complain about something or to complain about someone. A couple of examples, because I think most of you might know this one. John is always complaining about his job. So John should probably find a new job because he's always complaining about this job. And number 2, Karen complained about the slow service at the restaurant. So it took a long time for the meal to come. Karen, she complained about it to the manager. Number 5, to consent to something. That is, to give permission. So once I was on the street, and on the same street they were filming a TV show or a film. And then somebody came up to me from the television company and they said, do you consent to being filmed? Like, do you consent to being in this shot? Not as the main character, just somebody on the street. So I had to sign something to say, yes, I give my consent to being in this shot. So to give consent to being filmed. Another example could be, she gave her consent to the sale of the painting. So they asked this woman, is this okay if we sell this painting? She gave her consent to the painting being sold. Very reluctantly, I've consented to lend her my car. I didn't really want to. I was quite reluctant when I did it, but I consented to lend her my car. Number 6, to amount to. This means to be equivalent to. Let's look at a couple of examples. Number 1, his wealth is said to amount to $100 million. It's said to be equivalent to amount to. Time lost to illness in the company amounted to 1,360 working days last year. It was equivalent to, people are off sick quite a lot in this company. We could also say, he will never amount to anything. If I'm talking about somebody, he's a loser. He will never amount to anything. He'll never be equivalent to anything important. So it's not a good thing. I hope you don't know anybody like that or spend time with anybody like that, but he will never amount to anything. Number 7, to allow for something. This is a really interesting one. Let's look at a couple of examples. We should leave early to allow for any traffic problems. So imagine if you're going to the airport for a flight. Normally it takes 1 hour to go to the airport, but maybe you should leave a little bit extra time. Maybe leave 1.5 hours early, maybe even a little bit longer, just because if there's some traffic on the road, you want that period of time just so if you're a little bit late, you can still catch the flight. So you should leave early to allow for any potential problems, any traffic problems. We also have to allow for the possibility that we might not finish the project on time. So in a business context, we have a business project, we might have to allow for the possibility that maybe we will not hit the deadline. You have to allow a time lag between order and delivery. Imagine if you order a product from a country that is on the other side of the world from you, you have to allow for the delivery time. So it might take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even longer. You have to think about that when you order it. So you have to allow for that. Number 8, to succeed in something. James finally succeeded in passing his driving test at the 5th attempt. So he's been trying for a long time, learning to drive, passing his test. He failed his test 4 times. The 5th time, he finally succeeded in passing the test. You need to be pretty tough to succeed in sales. When you work in sales, it's very competitive. Everybody wants to make that sale, so you need to be pretty tough to succeed in that environment. The next one, to conform to. This really means to comply or to act in accordance with. So if we're talking about an electrical product, we could say the product conforms to the highest safety standards. We could also say members have to conform to a strict dress code. Sometimes at a golf club, at a nice restaurant, at a members club, you can't just arrive in jeans and a t-shirt. Maybe you need a jacket, maybe you need a tie, maybe you need, leather shoes or some trousers. So you have to conform to a strict dress code. You have to comply, you have to act in accordance with that. Another bit of advice for you, when living in a different country, you should try to conform to the cultural norms of that country. We've got this famous phrase, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. It's good advice when you're in a different country. And finally, number 10, to be accused of something. He was accused of shoplifting. The politician was accused of embezzlement. Embezzlement is like when you steal money and you hide it, embezzlement. The sports team was accused of cheating. So, just 10 for today with some really good examples for you. So like I said, because there are so many dependent prepositions, just try and choose about 10 every couple of days, once a week, something like that, depending on your project for learning English and how quickly you want to do it, and just try and add them into your vocabulary. Now, what you should really do as well is try and use those words so they become part of your active vocabulary. Maybe a good idea is something like writing a story or writing just some imaginary conversation between 2 friends, trying to use these dependent prepositions. As I mentioned before, write some down in the comments and I'll check them and see if they're correct. So, also, finally, before we go, don't forget to click follow as well, which is here. I always get that wrong, which is just down here. Click follow. You're going to get the new videos as soon as they come up, and you're really going to be helping me out as well. So, I hope that helps. Have a great day. Thanks.